Let us check out what happened yesterday. I forgot to watch this. Let's see what happened. Also, let's speed it up because, it happened yesterday.
Packed house here today, and I have a very special guest with us, the Vice President of the United States. He'll deliver some remarks and take some questions. First, I just want to share remarks of my own. Democrats in Congress have officially shut down the United States government.
Oh, shit.
House Republicans passed a nonpartisan, clean piece of legislation to extend current government funding until November 21st. But nearly every single Democrat senator voted against this bill. To be clear,
we might be going on for a third day. We don't know yet.
6 short months ago in March, just adjusted for inflation. This is the same kind of clean funding bill that Democrats passed 13 separate times when they held the majority during Joe Biden's administration. So the American people woke up this morning and asked the obvious question: why is the government shut down right now? The answer is pure partisan politics being played by the Democrat Party. The Democrats shut down the government because President Trump and the Republicans will not force American taxpayers to pay for free health care for illegal aliens. America is $37 trillion in debt. We cannot afford to provide taxpayer-funded free health care to illegals who
don't
broke
even
the
talk
law
about
to
the
enter our
individual
country.
states that have fucking deficits
the Democrats
and fucking
refuse to keep the government open
who are
over
broke
health care
as
to
well.
illegal aliens, and now have jeopardized critical health care programs for American citizens instead. The Women, Infants, and Children program, community health center funding, Medicare treatment options, and other health programs are now all at risk because of the Democrats rejecting the clean CR. The most vulnerable in our country are being punished because the Democrats want to prioritize illegals over American citizens. And if Democrats actually cared about health care, they would applaud the actions taken by President Trump just yesterday in the Oval Office. He took a bold and massively popular action to improve our healthcare system. He announced the first agreement with a major pharmaceutical company, Pfizer, to lower drug costs for Americans. This is a historical achievement long sought by past Democrat presidents that only President Trump was able to get done. Also yesterday, while the Democrats were whining about health care for illegal aliens, President Trump signed a powerful executive order to supercharge American AI innovation and unlock cures for pediatric cancer patients in the United States.
I don't know why, but
while
sometimes
President
it
Trump took action to lower drug prices and improve the lives and the
care
care of American children with cancer, again, Democrats are fighting to give health care benefits to illegal aliens. The Trump administration is fully committed to lowering health care costs and advancing policies that will save American lives. But right now, we need to keep the government open and funded. And individuals and organizations across the political spectrum, across the country, agree with the Trump administration and Republicans. The labor union leader, the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, sent a very blunt message to Democrats over their destructive antics. He said American workers are not bargaining chips. Senators need to stop screwing around and pass the House-passed clean short-term funding bill.
The issue is they keep
the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the world's largest
trying to
business
get these people who don't speak a lick of English
to saying, quote, shutdowns are harmful to the economy, the American people, and our national security. And even Democrat Senators Cortez Masto and Fetterman
that's the most simplified version I can give you. If you want me to go,
enough is enough.
If you want me to be nicer, it's they're taking a bunch of
Democrats need to do their job.
Migrants.
The American people want the government
and they're paying these low-paid workers
2 in 3 Americans
to do
say the government should not be shut down by the Democrats, even
work.
if their absurd demands
they're getting paid crap wages.
The Republicans are working very hard to reopen the federal government. The Vice President here has been crucial in this effort. We encourage all Americans across the country, call your Democrat senators and encourage them to reopen the government. That's what President Trump and the Vice President want to do. And with that, I will turn it over to our
they are
Vice
getting
President,
something back in a sense.
Well, thank you, Carolina, and good afternoon
versus
to everybody. And good
slavery, you're not
watching
getting
home.
anything
It's
back.
a tough act to
You're
follow,
just being
but let me
used
just say
to
a few
be
things, and then I'll take a few
fucking
questions.
cattle.
Number one, Democrats say that they care a lot about lowering healthcare costs, and yet, when the president took historic action to work with the drug companies to lower prescription drug prices, the Democrats did nothing to help us. In fact, we would have loved to have the Democrats helping us, but they didn't. They talk about doing something. They don't actually do the hard work of making it happen. What they have done instead is to shut down the government because we won't give billions of dollars to healthcare funding for illegal aliens. That is what has actually happened. To the American people who are watching, the reason your government is shut down at this very minute is because, despite the fact that the overwhelming majority of congressional Republicans and even a few moderate Democrats support
there are some rhino Republicans who are pieces of shit. I mean, they're obviously playing. They're obviously playing the game.
If you give billions of dollars of funding for healthcare for illegal aliens, that's a ridiculous proposition. Let me say two
I don't
other
know
quick
if there's
things, and then again, I'll take some questions. Number
not
one,
so much in the
we all
Senate,
understand
more
Democrats and
so
Republicans
in
have
maybe
policy
the
disagreements.
House.
The Democrats want to do things. Look,
more so the
when
House.
Chuck Schumer and
there's
Hakeem Jeffries were in here a couple of days
rhinos
ago,
and shit,
they made
right?
some suggestions that the president was more than happy to say, yes, let's sit down and talk about how we can solve the healthcare crisis that we inherited from the Biden administration.
You got
but
a
it's
few
one thing to say that we
rhinos in
should
the
solve the
Senate.
healthcare crisis for Americans. It's another thing to say that
But
we're going
you
to
see
shut
a
down
lot
the
of them
government
pop
unless we
out
give
in
the
the
Democrats
House,
every
right,
single
like-
thing that they want, which, as Caroline says, includes giving billions of dollars of taxpayer funding for healthcare for illegal
Like
migrants.
McCain and
That's
all those
ridiculous.
fucking
You
weirdos,
don't have
right?
policy disagreements that serve as the basis for a government shutdown. Let's have the conversation about how to fix American healthcare, about how to make healthcare more accessible. As the president showed, he's more than willing to act on behalf of the American people for this very reason. What you don't do is say, unless you do exactly what we want to do as congressional Democrats, we're taking a hostage. And the hostage, it turns out, is critical, essential services that the American people need. Caroline talked about some of it. Let me talk about some more. Our troops are not getting paid starting today because of the Chuck Schumer wing of the Democratic Party. We have people who require food assistance, low-income Americans who require food assistance, who will not get it unless we reopen the government, thanks to Chuck Schumer and his wing of the Democratic Party. We have flood insurance.
Well, I mean, he's
as
the
we
one
start
who fucking
hurricane
brought
season
it
in the
up,
southeastern
so.
part of our country. That flood insurance
He's the
is
one
going to
who went
disappear
out
because of
and
Chuck
like
Schumer
spoke
and
about it,
the
so that's
far
why
left of the
everyone's
Democratic
like,
Party.
it's
We
Chuck
need to reopen the
Schumer's
government. Let's
fucking-
fix America's problems. Let's work together to solve them. But let's reopen the government before we have our negotiation about healthcare policy. That's what the American people demand, and that's certainly what the President of the United States wants.
Why
Let
didn't
me
you
make one
have
final
like
point.
Maxine
A lot of
Waters or
Americans are asking
AOC
themselves, why did this
or
happen? Why did the Democrats shut down the government
Discount
despite, as Caroline
Obama,
said,
Hakeem
voting on the
Jeffries
exact
talk
same
about
piece
it?
of
Why did you get
6 months ago? And there are a lot of different
Schumer
spins that we could put on it, a lot of
about
different
it?
answers that we could give, all
Oh,
of them
that's
true.
right.
One answer I already gave.
I guess
is that they
you're
want to give
putting
healthcare
him as a
benefits to illegal aliens.
figurehead?
That is true. They
As a
gave us
fucking
legislative
loser
text that
figurehead?
would have undone us cutting off healthcare benefits for illegal aliens. That's one of the things that they asked for. But the reality here, and let's be honest about the politics, is that Chuck Schumer is terrified she's going to get a primary challenge from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The reason why the American people's government is shut down
that
is
too,
because
yeah.
Chuck Schumer
I
is
mean,
listening to the
there
far
needs
left
to
radicals
be
in his own
right
party
there.
because he's terrified of a primary challenge. So I'd invite
The,
Chuck Schumer to join the moderate Democrats
elections
and
are coming
52
up
Senate
pretty
Republicans,
soon.
do the right thing,
You
open up the
must
people's government,
choose.
and then let's fix healthcare policy for the American people. Questions?
Mr. Vice President.
That's a lot. Matt Boyle.
Okay. Mr. Vice President, there's two key Democrat lies I would like to get your take on and see if you can address. The first is that you're seeing a number of top Democrat leaders, from Kamala Harris and Chuck Schumer to Hakeem Jeffries, claim that it is a Republican shutdown caused by Trump. The second is that they're out there now claiming that they don't want to give health care to illegal aliens. Can you address both of those lies from the Democrat Party?
Yeah, so on the point that it's a Republican shutdown, look, it's obviously a Democratic shutdown. Just look at the vote totals in the House, look at the vote totals in the Senate, and look at the President of the United States' own action and conduct throughout this crisis. Nearly every single House Republican voted to open the government, Matt. Nearly every single Senate Republican voted to open the government last night, and even to their credit, a few moderate Democrats voted to open the government. That's not a Republican shutdown when nearly every single Senate Democrat votes to shut it down and every Republican voted to open it up. It's just obviously not true. Now, you can disagree about a number of things, but you can't disagree about the obvious fact that Republicans voted to open the government.
That too.
The president stands ready to sign
the
that
vote
opening of the
don't
government.
lie.
We just need a few more Democrats to join us in that effort to open the government. Your final question. About illegal alien benefits. Look, the text is very clear, and I even saw, I think it was George Stephanopoulos in an interview with Mike Johnson, did a fact check that was totally rooted in baseless claims. It was basically Democrat propaganda. If you look at the legislative text that they gave us, they tried to turn on two separate provisions that would give health care benefits to illegal aliens. Number one, if you're an American citizen, you've been to a hospital in the last few years, you probably noticed that wait times are especially large, and very often somebody who's there in the emergency room waiting is an illegal alien.
Well, it's
very
not
often
that
a person
the wait
who can't
times
even
are
speak
long,
English.
but
Why
they
do those
sometimes
people
only
get
have like
healthcare
one
benefits
doctor
at
on
hospitals
hand in
paid
right,
for by
certain
American
areas.
citizens? The answer is a decision made by the Biden administration
well,
that
I
the
mean,
Trump
they might have a
administration, working with
couple or
congressional
three.
Republicans, undid.
Well, yeah,
We
if you're
turned
talking
off that
about
money
like a
spigot to healthcare funding for illegal
small
aliens.
like
The Democrats in their legislative text want to turn it back on.
medical
That's one thing.
firm
The second
that
thing,
does
Matt,
stuff.
is we all know that there are various ways in which the Biden administration waved
Limited
away
staff.
illegal immigration status. They gave
You know.
parolees, they gave asylum claims to people who weren't really claiming asylum. And when they waved the magic wand of amnesty, giving millions of people legal status even though they were in the country illegally, they also gave those people access to health care benefits. So what the Democrats are engaging in is a sleight of hand. They're saying, no. Those weren't illegal aliens who were getting health care benefits, even though everybody, knows they were in the country illegally. It's a lie told by the Democrats that they're not trying to give health care benefits to illegal aliens. It's a lie that is obviously untrue if you just look at the text that they gave us, and all you have to do is understand that this is about who benefits.
Also,
We
Maxine
think the American
Waters
people's
said-
government ought to
said
benefit
it.
American citizens. The Democrats are willing
We
to shut it
want
down to
to
benefit
give
illegal
it to
aliens. The contrast couldn't be more clear.
everybody.
Peter.
Thank you, Vice President Vance. The big holdup
Fucking
is,
dumb
of course,
bitch.
that you guys say illegal.
I think they're
honestly.
I think they're drunk when they speak sometimes, because it's like, are you listening to yourself? Are you drunk
what
right
congressional
now?
Democrats are going to do, Peter, but I actually don't think it's going to be that long of a shutdown. This is a pure guess from the Vice President of the United States, because I think you already saw some evidence that moderate Democrats are cracking a little bit. They understand the fundamental illogic of this. Look,
like whenever Nancy Pelosi speaks, I swear to God, she's fucking drunk.
Chuck Schumer, we can remember, Nancy Pelosi for years, in Chuck Schumer's
all the
case,
old
for literally
cronies,
decades,
I
we've
swear
heard
to
them
God,
say,
they're fucking
you don't
drunk.
shut the government down over policy disagreement. Okay, Republicans think this thing about healthcare, that thing about healthcare. Democrats think this thing about immigration. Republicans disagree. Whatever
they're
those
all
disagreements
fucking
are, you don't
alcoholics,
shut
dude.
down the government over it. For the first time since the Democrats have been in politics, they're now saying that unless we get every policy item that we demand, we're going to shut down the people's government. They're trying to take a hostage, and we're not going to let them.
Oh, that's defamatory.
$18 billion
How about
down for
you eat
New
my
York
ass,
transportation
faggot?
projects is going to be frozen, so it can't go to DEI programs there. But the timing of this, does announcing that today mean that you guys are going to squeeze Chuck Schumer's home state until he blinks?
Look, I haven't talked to Russ about this morning, but look, I'm sure that Russ is heartbroken about the fact that he's unable to give certain things to certain constituencies. We want to do everything that we can to help the American people, but when the Democrats shut down the government, we have to actually do a little triage to make sure the most critical and most essential services are provided. The government does a lot of things. Of course, Republicans think that the federal government probably does too much, but there are a lot of critical things the federal government does that absolutely all of us would agree need to do. Our troops need to get paid. Our air traffic controllers need to make sure that people are flying safely and on time.
So basically what happens is when there's a government shutdown,
that are provided by the federal government, there are critical things that need to be saved. We're going to do everything
all
that we
these
can,
services are
over the coming
basically
weeks,
on
if
life
the shutdown
support
lasts
in this
that long,
sense.
to ensure that people get the
Because
essential
they
services
haven't
they
put
need,
any
despite the fact that
they
Chuck
haven't
Schumer
put
has shut
any
down the federal
funding
government. It's not going to be
for
perfect
the
because we are
for
in
the
a government
next
shutdown.
quarter.
We are going to have to lay some people off if the shutdown
In a
continues.
sense, right.
We don't
They
like
haven't
that. We
moved
don't
the
necessarily
money.
want to do it, but we're going to do what we have to keep the American people's essential services continuing to run.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for being here.
So yeah,
Yesterday,
so
President
they
Trump said, as a
so
result
they
of the
basically
shutdown,
try to
laying
keep
off a
the
lot of
essential
people that are
services
gonna
on
be
life
very
support,
effective,
right?
and the
Get those
Democrats,
people
they
paid
are
to
gonna
do
be
their jobs,
Democrats.
right?
Has the administration
Well,
asked
they try and
agencies
sort
to
this
target
thing
federal
out with
workers who they
everybody
believe
and
to be
get
Democrats in these
basically
reductions of
people on
forces?
board.
We're not targeting federal agencies based on politics. We're targeting the people's government so that as much as possible of the essential services can continue to function. That is the question the president has asked the entire government. Is fundamentally, okay,
also,
we're shut
I don't
down.
think
That
it's
causes
even
some
for
problems. The troops
quarterly.
aren't
I
getting
mean,
paid. There's nothing that we can
I
do
don't know
about that while the
exactly
government is
what's
shut
in
down.
this
But there are
funding
essential
bill,
services
but
that
it's
we wanna make
probably
sure as much as
for,
possible they still continue to function. That
maybe
is the
like 2 to
principle
4
that's driving
years,
us
maybe.
forward during the shutdown. It's going
Maybe a
to
little
continue to be the
less.
principle that
I
drives
don't
us
know
forward.
the
But let's be honest.
stipulation
If
of
this
what
thing
this
drags
is.
on for another few days or, God forbid, another few weeks, we are going to have to lay people off. We're going to have to save money in some places so the essential services don't get turned off in other places. That is the reality of the government shutdown that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have foisted upon the administration.
So what did
Phil.
he mean by they're going to be Democrats? He said they're going to be Democrats.
You've laid out a lot of the pain and problems that would come with a Democratic shutdown, and yet in the Oval Office yesterday, the president said that a lot of good could come from a shutdown. So square that circle. Which is it, a Democratic-caused crisis or a Republican opportunity for reform?
Well, I think all the president is saying, Phil, is that he wants to make sure the American people's government functions as well as it can, despite the fact that we're in a shutdown. We're going to have to make things work. And that means that we're going to have to triage some certain things. That means certain people are going to have to get laid off. And we're going to try to make sure that the American people suffer as little as possible from the shutdown. That's what the president is saying, is that, yes, this is a bad thing. Obviously, the president is trying to reopen the government, but we're going to make things work as well as we possibly can, given the constraints that we have.
Yeah, so Trump hasn't made a right. I don't think Trump has made really an announcement ever since right the government shutdown. He's probably talking on phone calls, right,
as you sort of
in
crack the door
meetings
open
a lot.
to negotiation at a later date, would the party that ran on defunding Obamacare really negotiate about potentially expanding Obamacare?
Well, Phil, what we've said to the Democrats is that we're willing to have a conversation about how to ensure that Americans continue to have access to health care, and frankly, they should have access to better health care at a lower cost. We inherited a mess of a health care system from the Biden administration. It's why the president has worked so hard on the most favored nation status for prescription drugs. It's why we care so much about lowering the cost of prescriptions, and why we're doing everything else. We're willing to have that conversation, but I think it's important to bracket the health care policy conversation because it's separate from the government shutdown. We think that we can open the government and then have the conversation about what best health care policy to fit the needs of the American people. That's all we're trying to do. That's all we're trying to accomplish. We've got to reopen the government first. Now, Caroline, I don't know how you do this, how you actually choose people, because I don't know 90% of the
we're
names
getting
here.
questions
Is it just
now.
who's the best dressed? Okay, I really like your shirt. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. You are President of the Senate. Can you talk about what you're doing, what the administration is doing to try to get other Senate Democrats to vote to open the government?
Yeah, we're talking to a number of our colleagues, Democratic and Republican in the Senate. I talked to a number of them last night. The president, of course, is talking to them as well. I think there really are two categories of demands that I've seen privately from congressional Democrats. I think on the one hand, those who are negotiating in good faith are saying, look, we just want to make sure that we're able to have a conversation with the administration about some of the critical needs that we see that need to get fixed over the next few months. We recognize it's kind of absurd, and a lot of them will admit in private that it's kind of absurd to shut down the people's government over these disagreements, but just agree to negotiate with us in good faith on these issues, and of course we're having that conversation with them. Then there's another category, people who say, give us everything we want or we're going to keep the government shut down. We just write those people off because they're not negotiating in good faith, and frankly we don't need them. We've already got 3 more Democrats last night than I thought we would get, and I think it's because they recognize the illogic of the position of taking the entire American economy hostage because they don't get their policy priorities. So 3 moderate Democrats joined 52 Republicans last night. We need 5 more in order to reopen the government, and that's really where we're going to focus, is how to get those 5 additional Democrats.
Thanks, Mr. Vice President. First 2 questions. Are there plans to meet Democratic leaders again in the coming days, or are you planning on plucking off senators one by one?
So that's the whole question?
No, I got a second.
Okay, go ahead and ask the second question.
So the president's been posting some images of Leader Jeffries and Senator Schumer recently. You've said that you're interested in good faith negotiations with these leaders.
Yeah,
but,
he already.
what message is that?
Right,
is it helpful to post pictures
already
of Leader Jeffries in a sombrero if you're trying to have good faith talks with him?
Oh, I think it's funny. The president's joking, and we're having a good time. You can negotiate in good faith while also poking a little bit of fun at some of the absurdities of the Democrats' positions, and even poking some fun at the absurdity of the Democrats themselves. I mean, I'll tell Hakeem Jeffries right now. I make
Gavin Newsom feels
that if you help us reopen the government,
incredibly
the
attacked.
will stop. And I talked to the president of the United States about that. Now, to your first question, are we negotiating one-on-one? Are we negotiating in groups?
Especially with the
Trump
I will go to the
U.S. Capitol right now and meet Chuck Schumer
sending him
Senate Democrat.
You got so
if it
upset
helps
with
us
that
reopen the
one for
government.
some reason.
Most of the conversations, in my experience at least, have been one-off. We're also, of course, relying on some of our
You
Senate
can see it
Republican
on his
colleagues who have good
face. He looks
relationships
so
across the aisle.
upset.
We're going to do whatever we have to do is the answer, and I think it's tough to predict what shape this negotiation is going to take over the next few months.
He
But I
doesn't
feel
like
good
hats,
about
I
the fact
guess.
that Democrats already realize privately the fundamental irrationality of their position. I hope that they're going to publicly acknowledge it and reopen the government. Right in the back, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. You responded to a post on X of Chuck Schumer on the House floor back in 1996, railing against illegal immigrants receiving taxpayer-funded benefits. You said Chuck Schumer once recognized that it was disastrous to give illegal aliens rewards for breaking the law. Now he wants to shut down the government unless we reward illegal aliens for breaking the law. Why has Chuck Schumer changed his stance?
That's a good question. Actually, it's a very tough question. Asking me to get in the head of Chuck Schumer is not a place I particularly want to be, but my basic read on it is that the entire Democratic Party, the political leadership, not every Democrat nationwide, but the political leadership of their party has got it into their heads that the only way to be compassionate is to be compassionate to illegal aliens rather than American citizens. If you go back to what Bill Clinton was saying, even Barack Obama in some cases,
you have a bunch of Democrats
10, 15,
who are
20 years ago, you would put them on the
shooting
MAGA right,
for the position of being the next
I don't know why they've gone so far to the left. I think it's bad for the country.
But
I think
all
it's bad
of
for
them
them politically. But our principles, all I can do is speak for the president that I serve in the country, the administration that I serve right now. We believe that the American people's government exists for the American people.
All of them
that means
just
the people who have the legal right to be here, and that's why we're fighting to reopen the government. And unfortunately, the Democrats are fighting to shut it down for the benefit of illegal aliens. And I'll take a couple more, and then I'll let Caroline.
Not want to do
I'll go back to my
anything.
day job, so Caroline can
They
go back
want
to
to
hers.
help illegal aliens. They want to open borders.
You said that the president's joking, but Hakeem Jeffries says that these meetings were racist.
Fucking
What's
out
your
of their
response to
minds.
that? And just if I may briefly go off topic, Secretary Hegseth yesterday made an edict
Love
about
the
no more
lawlessness.
beardos in the military. Just wondered what.
Sorry, what did he say?
No more beardos. Beards.
Beard. No more beardos. No more beards.
I didn't see that particular comment. I thought Pete gave a hell of a speech, and a speech that really is just oriented around returning the American military to the very high standards that it has had for virtually its entire history until Joe Biden came along and decided to lower standards. I think it was bad for our military, and it was bad for our troops. When I was a young United States Marine, I did not have a beard. I am now the vice president, so I get to do what I want to do. But I think Pete's trying to re-implement high standards, and that's a very good thing. On the sombrero thing, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries said it was racist, and I know that he said that, and I honestly don't even know what that means. Like, is he a Mexican American that is offended by having a sombrero meme? I mean, I saw one of the major TV stations put the meme up and then say, "This is AI generated," and he had like
they
a curly
protect you from the
animated
sun,
mustache
man.
too. It's like, do the
Those
American
hats are
people,
nice.
do you really not realize the American people recognize that he did not actually come to the White House wearing a sombrero and a black curly animation mustache? Like, give the country a little bit of credit. We're all trying to do a very important job for the American people. The President of the United States likes to have a little bit of fun when he's doing it, and I think that's okay. I'll take one more question.
Mr. Vice President, in every previous shutdown, workers
You know
have
the
been furloughed, not
ponchos
laid
and
off. So
sombreros?
why does the president want to fire some workers
They
and not just
protect you
furlough them?
from
Why
heat,
is this shutdown any
hombre.
different?
Well, first of all, we haven't made any final decisions about what we're going to do with certain
Madre.
workers. What we're saying is that we might have to take
Pendejo.
extraordinary steps, especially
Sorry,
the longer this
dude.
goes on. We're going to have to take extraordinary measures to ensure the people's government operates, again, not perfectly, because it's not going to operate perfectly in the midst of a shutdown, but operate as well as it possibly
Gotta
can.
be
And I think that the
Chicano.
Democrats, if they're so worried about the effect this is having on the American people, and they should be, what they should do is reopen the government, not complain
yes,
about
I
how we
picked up some
respond
Spanish.
to the fact that Chuck
Blah,
Schumer and the
blah,
Democrats
blah.
have shut down the government in the first place.
And the president
Thank you,
also
Caroline.
going to target some benefits, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you.
Should
See you
American
guys.
workers get benefits to be cut as well?
All right, guys. Well, let's let
Hey,
the fun
when you
continue.
live,
the Vice President's a
in
very busy man, and I'm happy
California,
to take some
you
more
can pick
questions.
up
I know
some
there's more
Spanish
news
pretty
today.
quick.
Aside from the shutdown, we can focus on the shutdown if you want, but let's go ahead. Kate, why don't you start?
The president talked about doing things that he said were irreversible during the shutdown, cutting vast numbers of people, he said, and cutting programs. Can you specify what exactly he's referring to, what's on the table, and what's going to be cut?
Look, I think the Vice President just referred to this in some of the answers that he gave regarding the layoffs. There are unfortunate consequences to a government shutdown, and the federal government is not receiving any cash at the moment. And so the Office of Management and Budget has been tasked with looking over the receipts and looking over the budget of the entire federal bureaucracy, and as the Vice President said, determining what needs to continue to go out the door and what can we continue to keep running, and what unfortunately is going to have to come to an end.
Honestly,
so those decisions are being made.
if you live
and
in
unfortunately,
any of
layoffs are
the
very likely, as the
bordering
Vice President
states
just
to
said, going to be a part of
Mexico,
that.
And
right?
White House had any direct response
New
from
Mexico,
Hamas
Nevada, all
the
those
peace proposal
states,
that was laid out.
you're
The
gonna
president
get a
said he
little
would
bit
give
of
3 or 4 days, but is there
there's
a
a lot
hard
of
deadline
Spanish
now? What are the
people
next
left.
steps here?
I will
Obviously
reiterate what the
coming.
President of the United States said 3 or 4 days, and I can
Texas, right.
tell you that there are some very sensitive discussions that are taking place, but I certainly don't want to get ahead of any announcement at this podium. I'm
Not
going to
only
let
that, but then you
Special
got a
Envoy
bunch
Witkoff
of
and the President of the United
different
States handle that.
communities that pop up.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. First of all,
Uh,
following
Los
up on that, the
Angeles
president said
has
yesterday, I believe, within 3 or 4 days, he wanted to hear an
pretty-
answer from Hamas. Is he still sticking by that timeline?
Yes,
not
as I
Los
just
Angeles. Well,
And second question is a comment
Huntington
that's gotten
Beach,
a lot of global attention.
like Orange
Senator,
County,
Dick
place-
Durbin,
right.
he was set
Large
to receive
Asian
a lifetime
community
achievement award from the Catholic Church.
places.
Since
Same
declined
with Los
accepting it
Angeles.
because there has been some controversy, Pope Leo commented on this, and he said that someone who
Well,
says
they
I'm against
just
abortion,
gotta- right,
but
you
I'm in
just gotta
agreement with the
figure
inhuman
out
treatment
where-
of immigrants in the United States. they
same
don't
with
know if that's pro-life.
same with
You've been very open
Texas.
about your Catholic
There's
faith. How do
Asian
you respond to that?
communities all
I
over
would reject
Texas
there is
too.
inhumane treatment of illegal immigrants in the United States under this administration.
Well,
there
yeah.
was, however,
New
significant
Orleans.
inhumane treatment of
There's,
illegal immigrants in the previous administration as they
there's
were being
Asian
trafficked
communities
and raped
throughout
and
there.
beaten, and in many cases killed over our United States southern border. You also look at the inhumane treatment at the hands of some of these illegal immigrants that took place under the previous administration as well. Laken Riley comes to mind, a beautiful American citizen who was killed at the hands of an illegal immigrant. So this administration is trying to enforce our nation's laws in the most humane way possible, and we're upholding the law, and we're doing that on behalf of the people of our country who live here.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. What is the level of concern that the administration has regarding a protracted government shutdown in terms of its impact on the U.S. economy and also its impact on small businesses as well?
Well, look, this government shutdown is no doubt going to impact everyday Americans, and it is the fault of the Democrats that we are in this position. And I know I relayed some programs that will be impacted, the Vice President did as well, but I just want to make sure the American public understand what the Democrats have done to our government and our country. 1.3 million active duty troops will work now without pay. Critical food assistance for low-income women, infants, and children will now lapse. No new mothers or children are allowed to join this critical program because of the Democrats' decision to shut down the government. Telehealth services
Yeah,
for
basically
seniors
what
and in-home
happens is
treatment
all
options for Medicare
programs are
patients
basically
will now
shut
come
down,
to an end.
right? You
Nearly
can't
50,000 members of the
once
United
you
States Coast
do
Guard
that,
are
you
going to
can't
have to work
enter in
unpaid.
anybody.
Over 13,000 air traffic
Basically.
controllers will work without pay, as well as
it's
TSA
like
agents, which will very likely
right, you
create
shackled
flight
the system.
disruptions. And pay will now
You
stop for
shackled the
over
money
150,000 federal law enforcement officers. These are not just
You
numbers and
fucking-
statistics. These are real Americans who have families at
You
home.
closed
And
off
I saw
the
some
spigot.
Democrat
Huh?
members today saying they're still going to accept their
The
paychecks
faucet
because
is
they
closed.
have 3 kids at home and they have mouths to feed. Well, so do these federal workers who those same Democrats just voted to shut down the government and turn off their pay. And we believe that's very unfair, and it's why the administration wants to see the government reopened.
GDP growth fell by about half a percentage point during the last government shutdown during the president's first term. Are you expecting a similar type of impact on GDP growth related to this potential protracted government shutdown?
Well, look, I think it's dependent upon how long this shutdown continues. So it's dependent on how long it takes Democrats to muster up the coverage, 5 of them, to vote in the best interest of our country, our citizens, and our economy. Eamon.
Thank you, Caroline. Yesterday, your administration took a 5% stake in Lithium Americas and a stake in the mine that they're working on, and you've taken stakes in other companies and revenue streams from other companies. Can you articulate the broader principle here? When does the administration see it as appropriate to demand equity stakes or revenue streams from American companies? And what other companies are you going to be demanding those from?
Well, look, this is a creative solution by the President of the United States to tackle our nation's crippling debt crisis. As I said earlier, we are $37 trillion, trillion with a T, in debt. And not only is the President effectively utilizing tariffs to bring in massive amounts of revenue, and there's billions of dollars coming in every month. I know you know that even because you cover it on CNBC quite well. So the President is focused on how can the United States government make more money? How can we make our country wealthy and rich again? And cutting some of these unique creative deals with companies around the world. And
he's
here
mentioning
at home,
the $37 trillion from the national
to do that,
debt
and I know
clock.
the Department of Energy just announced this new deal.
Well, I mean, it's going to go to 38 soon because it doesn't stop.
The Supreme Court said today that she's going to be allowed to stay at the Federal Reserve Board until oral arguments in January. Does the President have any personal reaction to that? This has been something he's been very intent on.
Look, we have respect for the Supreme Court, but they're going to hear the actual case and make a determination on the legal argument in January, and we look forward to that because we maintain that she was fired well within the President's legal authority to do so. She was removed from the board, and we look forward to that case being fully played out at the Supreme Court.
Number go up.
I have one for you on EJ Antonio and one on the shutdown. Sure. CNN reported that Collins and Murkowski.
And basically, what happens is the government shutdown just right.
What message Collins and Murkowski are sending to the White House by
just speeds up the process of losing, burning
EJ
more
Anthony
money.
remains a great ally of the President and our team. It became clear, unfortunately, that he was not going to have the votes, and so we will be announcing a replacement nominee very soon.
On the shutdown, I'm just wondering how soon you could see cuts to the federal workplace, and if there's a specific agency that will.
Right, you got to spend money to make money.
Unfortunately, because the Democrats shut down the government,
and if there's
the
not
President has directed
spending
his
any
cabinet
money
and the
to
Office
make
of
any
Management and
money,
Budget is working
well,
with agencies
looks
across
like
the board
everyone's
to identify where cuts can be made, and we believe that layoffs are imminent. They are, unfortunately, a consequence of this government shutdown. Ed.
So you talk about the layoffs being imminent. Is there a percentage then of reduction that the White House is looking for of workforce?
I don't have a specific percentage for you.
Can I ask about China, if I could? So China has not made one soybean purchase this year in the United States. I talked to a farmer yesterday who has about 1,000 acres in Iowa and says this is just killing her. Now the president has been talking to President Xi. Could China not buying agriculture affect a possible meeting with the president? Would he not meet with Xi because China's refused to buy?
What do you mean? China doesn't even buy shit
Look, I don't want to speak for the president and make a determination on that from this podium, but what I can tell you is that supporting America's farmers and doing what's best for them is at the top of the president's priority list, and it's at the top of the list for this administration right now. There have been several very high-level meetings on this very topic. We want to help our farmers, and we're exploring the best ways to do that. And I would anticipate there will be more to come on that very soon.
Send a message to the Chinese president.
Look, I just shared that message. The president wants what's best for America's farmers. Sean.
Hey, Carolyn.
Hi.
Two things to ask.
I'm sorry.
First
The
thing, I wanna
government
ask about
steals
this video
from
that the
us,
president
right?
posted the other
Xi
day.
in
It was
particular.
an AI deepfake of himself talking about
Xi's
something called
government
Mendez.
steals from
What was
us.
he trying to communicate to the public there, and why did he delete it?
I think the president saw the video,
Especially
and posted
wanting to draw
and then took it down.
division
and he
and
has the right to do that. It's his social
propaganda
media. He's
amongst
incredibly
Americans too.
transparent,
I
as
mean,
you all
that's
know.
what Xi
You hear
wants.
from him directly on
He
social
wants
media.
the
He likes to share
chaos.
memes. He likes to share videos. He likes to repost things that he sees other people post on social media as well.
Same
And I
with
think it's quite
Putin.
refreshing
Why do you
that
think
we have a
Putin
president
said
who is
that
so
thing
open and
about
honest directly
fucking
himself.
two-state,
Many a times
right,
on Truth, you are hearing directly from the president of the United
two-state
States.
solution
Second
thing.
How did the White House decide that it is appropriate for Jared Kushner to be working on matters that involve Qatar, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia, three countries that combined have given him more than $2.5 billion for his investment firm?
I think it's, frankly, despicable that you're trying to suggest that it's
These
inappropriate for Jared Kushner,
politicians
who
are
is widely
calculated
respected around the
motherfuckers trying to
world
fucking
and has
cause
great
issues
trust
all
in
over the
relationships with
fucking
these critical
place.
partners in these countries, to strike a 20-point comprehensive detailed peace plan that no other administration would ever be able to achieve. And so Jared is donating his energy and his time to our government, to the President of the United States, to secure world peace. And that is a very noble thing.
Remember
And this
what
is a peace
happened with
plan
the
that has
Nord
not just been
Stream
accepted
2
by Israel,
pipeline that got
but it has been
bombarded?
applauded by Muslim and Arab countries around the world. It has been applauded by European leaders around the world. Virtually everyone in the world is supportive of this plan that Jared Kushner offered his time to help put together alongside our special envoy Witkoff, the Vice President, the President of the United States, Secretary
same
Rubio,
pipeline
and the
has been
President's
hit like
entire
3
national security
fucking
team. We are
times.
very proud of that plan, and we hope Hamas will accept it because it will lead to a more peaceful and prosperous Middle
People
East.
cutting the same fucking not
Two
cutting
questions.
the
One, we're
same
talking a lot about these layoffs and hypotheticals, but Speaker Johnson
underwater
earlier today said that
cables
there is
for
a
your
proposal
internet
from the White House that House
purposefully,
Republicans are
maybe
expected to
intentionally,
hear this
possibly.
afternoon
who
about
knows?
these mass layoffs.
Can you tell us what is in that proposal?
Why
what
the
agencies,
fuck
what
would you
programs,
do
what
this?
jobs? What he's referring
You've
to
been
is
told
a proposal
not to
that
fucking
our
drop
Office of
your
Management and
anchor
Budget
in the
Director
middle
Russ
of the
Vought is
fucking
going to be
ocean like
proposing
that.
to the House
You
Republican
fucking
Conference.
still
He's going to
do
kind of
it.
walk them through what this unfortunately is going to look like so they can discuss it with their constituents back home in their respective districts. So I don't want to get ahead of the Office of Management and Budget, but
Also,
I'm sure
I
you'll
think
be
they
hearing more about that very
also
soon.
I think
we have to put a plan
the
in,
border
place.
lines.
It would be irresponsible of us
I'm pretty
not
sure
to
they
take a
tell
look at
you
each and every
like
agency and get an
when
understanding
you're
of what we're going to have to do moving forward
navigating or being a
to
captain
do the best
for
we
a
can in
boat.
the
They
midst of this
fucking
government
tell you
shutdown.
all this shit.
Thanks, Caroline. Just on that point, though, Russ Vought told House members, according to our notice recording,
Yeah, don't drop
that risk
anchor
would
in
happen
certain
2
fucking
days.
areas, or
Already,
else
we
you're
know
gonna
that some have been
fucking
sitting out
cause
from the
issues.
U.S. Patent Office. So I wonder, one, this administration continues to say that they don't want to lay people off, but obviously there is a plan to lay people off. So what is your message to those people who are getting laid off? And then, if the government reopens, will those risks reverse? Are they not permanent? If the government specifically, they reopens pretty quickly.
Well, sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do, and it's because the Democrats have put us into this position. If the Democrats did not vote to shut down the government, we would not be standing up here talking about layoffs today. We'd be talking about all the other news stories going on in the world in our country. We'd be talking about all of the great things that this administration is doing to uplift Americans across the country. But unfortunately, the Vice President of the United States and I have to come out here today to talk about a government shutdown that the Democrats put us in this position.
And the second question,
Thanks, Caroline. Just trying to clarify the timing
All
of
they
these
had to do
potential,
was
layoffs to
vote,
federal
and they
workers. You
didn't
said
vote. They
imminent.
were like,
The
"No,
Vice
we
President
want
said, say, in a
government
couple
shutdown."
days.
Okay.
It looks like Russ Vought maybe said
got your
in 2
government
days.
shutdown.
When would these
We're going on
layoffs
to day
begin?
3
2
possibly.
days,
Who
imminent,
knows?
very soon. You will expect more announcements right now.
Is it just unclear, or are you waiting? Is it
No,
just
it's not unclear. All of those things are very
We'll
synonymous
find out
with one
at
another.
what,
These
4 in
risks
the.
are unfortunately going to
They
have to
usually
happen very
start.
soon.
They usually start broadcasting at like 3 in the morning or something.
Affordable Care
Real
Act,
fucking
enhanced
early
premium
in the
tax
morning.
credits.
I know.
Politics of it all, right? But
I
this is a
believe
very
Fox News
real,
starts their
tangible
new
impact that
broadcast
American
at like
people will feel.
5 in the
The Kaiser
morning
Family
or some
Foundation
shit
says
like
that with
that.
the ACA
PST.
enhanced premium tax credits, without them, premiums will go up 114% on average. 19 million of the 24 million people who rely on the coverage are in states that President Trump won. Is he concerned what will happen to those families if this tax credit expires? And aside from the shutdown, is there a plan to keep those premiums down?
Look, as the Vice President just said, we are more than happy to have this conversation. The President and the Vice President and this team are more than happy to have that conversation with Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill, but it cannot happen right now. Right now, we need to reopen the United States federal government because people are going without pay. You have thousands of federal workers who have to show up to work and not get paid, and that's an unfortunate situation the Democrats have put us in. Then we can discuss this very
Yeah,
important issue
basically.
of healthcare that the President absolutely wants to fix. As I mentioned yesterday, he took but those premiums do not expire until the end of the year. It's October 1st right now. And so we have a few months to have that conversation. And it's irresponsible of the Democrat Party to try to convince the American people that that conversation has to happen right now. No, what needs to happen right now is the reopening of the United States federal government. And then this administration will be happy to work with Democrats in good faith to come to a policy determination. But one red line the government has already made clear, this administration has already made clear, this administration is never going to support taxpayer-funded benefits going to illegal aliens. And we think it's despicable that that was one of the first proposals that Democrats put in their funding proposal, in their CR. The Republican CR was a clean CR that would keep the government open. Democrats have voted for it 13 times in the past. The Democrats put this poison pill in there, this partisan pill. Why? Because they are beholden to the far left radicals in their party. And you already see 3 moderate Democrats having the courage to say, no, we need to keep the government open, and then we can have these conversations about health care. Mary.
Caroline, I just want to circle back to something the Vice President said about Ocasio-Cortez. I'm actually surprised it didn't come up sooner. So if Schumer is catering to the demands of Ocasio-Cortez, can you share whether the White House views this as cracks in Schumer's leadership, and would the Vice President be open to meeting with someone like her if she is assuming this role in the Democratic Party?
I'll let the Vice President speak on that himself. I think that certainly Senator Schumer was not expecting 3 moderates to break with him last night. In fact, last night you heard Senator Schumer say he can't guarantee that he will be able to hold his caucus together. And so again, we encourage Democrats to have the courage to do the right thing, do what you have done 13 times previously, and vote for this clean continuing resolution to keep the government funded. As for what the Trump administration and President Trump is going to do, we'll continue to be very public that we want the government to be open, and as the Vice President said, we'll continue to work in good faith with anyone on Capitol Hill who wants to do right by the American people. Thank you all so much. We'll see you later.
So there you have it. As you can see, it is going on to the 3rd day, or well, possibly 3rd day. We don't know yet. Not until the day rolls over. But we are on the 2nd day, and it seems like it's still shut down. Yes. So we'll see what happens in like 10 hours. Well, less than 10 hours, right? But yeah, there you have it.